Clemson quarterback Cade Klubnik was 13-26 for a buck 58 in the spring game this past weekend. Anyone that's watched this channel before knows we always harp on take spring games with a grain of salt. They're just spring games. We don't know exactly what's going on or what the read is or what the coaches are telling these players to do. We've had quarterbacks that have played really well in spring games that have not done good in the fall. And then we've had quarterbacks that have played awful in spring games, have really good seasons. But with that said, there's still some takeaways from the spring games. And we put out a video last week about Cade Klubnik, talking about what we wanted to see from Cade during the spring game. So I want to talk about a few of the takeaways from Klubnik during the spring game. We're going to watch maybe 3 clips that kind of go through a few different areas that we talked about prior to the game, and talk about what this means moving forward. But at the end of the day, for Cade and for the Clemson team in general, it's just a spring game. I'm not putting a ton of stock into it. It was nice to see Trent Pearman play really well. I know he's getting a ton of hype, and you're seeing people talk about, is he going to potentially push to start next year? But I think Cade's going to have a pretty good year next year. I really do. And I think there are some encouraging signs from the spring game that we're going to get into. Of course, some improvement areas, some areas that we saw him struggle with last year that he struggled with in the spring game still. But I think overall, I think we saw some good signs, right? So before we dive into it, this is your first time tuning into the channel. We're just a big quarterback hub. We talk all things quarterbacks, from small breakdowns to quarterback interviews to just quarterback topics and quarterback content in general, specifically the college quarterback position. So if that's your type of content, if that's your niche, if you will, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, like and share. It really does help. So Cade Klubnik, what are some things that we like? Well, number one, I think we saw him go through progressions more often. Now, it didn't always end up in success per se, but we saw him go through some progressions. That was something that he talked about after the game. That's something that we've talked about in the offseason, that to improve and take the next step, you want to see Cade go through progressions, go through his second read, and get the ball out quicker at times, but then also hold on to the ball a bit longer at times to let plays develop. And he showed that this past weekend. He showed, I think, some steps and some improvement. Now, there's still some inconsistency, and we're gonna get into that, but I still think that you saw him go through progressions. Number two, you want to see him take some deep shots downfield, and we saw a few. They didn't always hit them during the spring game, but we did see a few. That's one of the big things. We got to have a yards per attempt above 6 point whatever it was last year, and so I wanted to see more of that in the spring game, and I think he did. He even talked about it after the game. Like, his biggest thing was this entering year 2 of his offense under Garrett Riley, understanding it and just kind of getting the schematics of what they wanted to accomplish with the offense, getting that done in the spring ball. I did think we saw some of it. I did think we pushed the ball downfield a bit more. And with that said, there were still some inconsistencies. We still saw them get kind of that happy feet, if you will, and then we saw him force the ball at times as well. And then the interception he threw, which we're going to get into, wasn't his fault, right? So just getting on the same page as your receivers. But overall, I thought it was just a fine spring game, right? Again, I'm not taking too much stock into it. We're not putting, too much. We're not having a ton of takeaways, but I still think there were some positive takeaways. I still think you saw some positives for Cade moving forward. And hey, got to continue to improve, especially with was it Georgia they open up with? Don't kill me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Georgia they open up with in August. So you want to make sure you're on the same page with the receivers. You want to make sure that you're getting the ball out quick, but you're also letting the plays develop so you can read the plays and push the ball downfield a bit more. So with that said, let's look at some plays. Let's go through, how many plays do I have pulled up? Maybe 3. I want to look at my favorite play of the whole, or my favorite throw from Cade of the whole game. Let's see. Let's see if it will pause. Can I pause it? Yeah. So we're going to see a deep out here. You're going to see the slot receiver on the hash, the field side hash. It's 3rd and 8, and Cade's going to throw a really good throw on 3rd and 8. Let's see. Yep, there's that receiver doing a deep out here. Again, this is a tough throw. Right hash to left side of the field. This is a rhythm throw. You need to feel comfortable with this type of throw. So these throws here are encouraging for me. It's a good anticipation throw. The ball's coming out now right as the receiver's breaking. The DB is off, but it's not horrible coverage because the DB actually does recover. Ends up being a really good throw from Cade here. Again, probably my favorite throw is a 3rd and 8. Not a lot of room for error, and the receiver is able to get upfield and break it for a tackle, or break the tackle as well. Let's go back and watch it one more time. Again, deep out, tougher throw than what it looks like. Right hash to the left side of the field side. and able to just be a really nice throw from Cade. And like we talked about, just being a more sync with offense, being more comfortable with the offense leads to these type of throws. So again, this is my favorite throw from Cade overall. You can see the pockets kind of collapsing, but then Cade's able to get the ball out, go through his read, and throw a really good ball here, right? So again, deep out, my favorite throw from Cade. Let's see, what do we have next? There's two more clips I want to talk about. One was interception, and one was the almost pick. Okay, here is the almost pick here. So we're going to see Cade. He initially starts looking to the left here, right, and then goes downfield. So I like going through your reads. I like going through your progressions. This is a positive. I don't mind this at all. You're going through your progressions, and you scramble and you roll out, right? Like Cade's good. He's athletic. He keeps his eyes downfield. But you have a receiver right at the 42 or whatever, right, that they could have thrown it to. Obviously, he's going to block now. Cade's looking downfield, and this is where Cade kind of latches on his receiver, and he doesn't see this DB. This should have been a pick here. This should have been an interception. Here, he doesn't see that the DB right there that drops it, right? So you have one DB trailing. He's throwing to the receiver, trying to go outside numbers. The DB was just circled. Cade doesn't see that, ends up being a drop interception, so it doesn't, no harm, no foul. But still, these are the type of like inconsistencies you just want to kind of get rid of. Besides this, I didn't see a ton of mistakes on Cade's part, to be honest. There's a drop ball by a receiver. That was a really good read by Cade it was a good deep crossing route. That would have made his numbers look a little better, right? So there are some good positive takeaways here. This is probably my only kind of biggest thing. Hey, Cade, you know not to do this, man. This is on the run. You dialed in. You start off good, progressing your reads, and then you threw it to a receiver without even seeing that DB right there. And there's last one here. This was the interception that he threw. This is not great video quality. I apologize. If you can kind of see the receiver should have stopped. He probably has an option route, and I'm just totally guesstimating here. But just after seeing a ton of these type of throws and being these type of offenses like this, if the DB is on top, which he is right here, then he's supposed to sit down. That's what Cade thought the receiver was going to do. The receiver did not sit down. He kept going. So right when the receiver kept going, Cade threw the ball. In this, the DB's on top of the receiver here, so and just not on the same page. Receiver kept going. He sort of set down right there. It ends up being an interception. So that's a pick I'm not putting on Cade. Did Dabo talk about that? I can't remember if Dabo talked about that or not. But regardless, not on the same page. That's a throw that the receiver should sit down. That's a good example of an option throw there, right? So overall, I still thought there were some positive takeaways from Cade. I think, it wasn't like he was like 14 out of 16 for 280 for 3 touchdowns. Like, you didn't see everything you wanted to see. You didn't see the 3 or 4 deep balls completed. You didn't see, him go through a few progressions every play and then get the ball out, right? There's some stuff you wanted to see, but I think he showed enough to show, okay, there's improvement being done. There's going to be a lot of there should be or could be a lot of excitement if Cade continues down that path. And then spring ball. Like, it's hard to get in a rhythm in an actual spring game, right? So it's just really tough to get in rhythm. You're not getting hit. You're getting subbed in and out. You have different situations. The defense isn't allowed to do certain things. Offense isn't allowed to do certain things, and you're playing within like a condensed playbook essentially. But overall, I think good steps. I think you saw some progressions. I think you saw him push the ball downfield at times, and then we saw that deep out to me is a really encouraging sign because he's using anticipation. He's throwing that ball. It's a 3rd and 8. It's a long, hard throw, and he's able to demonstrate. So I think if he gets more and more comfortable with those type of throws, we could see some cool things in 2024. Right? Again, it's a spring game. Take with a grain of salt. I don't even like showing film from spring games, but I think at times there could be, it could potentially be beneficial. Right? There are some takeaways, like we said. So, with that said, Clemson fans, what was your takeaway from the game? What did you think about Cade Klubnik? I know there's a lot of talk about Trent Pierman, right? I'm pronouncing that right. And he had a great game, right? And he's pushing number 2. Maybe he is number 2 right now. But he had a great spring game. But what are your thoughts on Cade? Let me know your thoughts of Cade. Let me know your thoughts on the quarterbacks in the comments below. Any Clemson topic you want to see quarterback related, let me know. And again, if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It really does help us out. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Peace.